I'll take off the hood so that I'm not gambling. This is Yusef at my own channel. And I think Mark Stein makes a great point that multiculturalism is not multicultural. Multiculturalism is unicultural. It's only the Western nations that adhere to multiculturalism. You can't be multicultural in Saudi Arabia. And when you say you believe in everything, or you stand for everything, you stand for nothing. It's ridiculous. These ideas, and the idea of multiculturalism is that there's, I think Douglas Murray made a point about it, saying like if you were a Nazi, or if you were a fascist, or if you were a communist, these are meant to present arguments, basically to cause an argument, to say things like this. But multiculturalism states that there's no need to argue. And he says that many of these people who support multiculturalism don't know anything about any other culture, and that the point is that you don't need to, and that multicultural has been harmful. Bill Maher is right. Western culture is better than a culture that would stone women to death, execute homosexuals, you know, all this kind of garbage. And I don't want to hear people saying, oh, there's a verse in the Old Testament that talks about stoning women, and when was that ever practiced, and actually by Christians? When was that? I mean, that's ridiculous. There's a very famous incident where Christ stood up against that. And as for the hatred against homosexuality, I would point you to Vladika Lazar. So this finger pointing of, oh, like when I mentioned the issue of supporting genocide, and I said, well, the oldest forms of Christianity don't do that. People said, oh, well, what about when the emperors of Constantinople conspired with the West to do their dirty work? You mean the Crusades, when they asked for a force of 500 to defend Constantinople, and instead there was thousands brought, and they actually raided Constantinople and then started taking over vast swaths of Palestine and the Sinai? It totally go around the point and then say, oh, well, look at this, that's a bad thing. That's not the point of it. It's not what I made the video for. That's no argument in the video. That's ridiculous. And even in the video, so you're equating communism with atheism. I even say in the video, not all atheists are for Stalinism or genocide. It's disgusting. It's making charges of things that I openly speak out against, and try to claim that I'm supporting them. In the West here, the American Constitution, the secular Constitution, and the original secularists were Christians. We can even point to the verse in the Bible where it says, render unto Caesar what Caesar, render unto God what is God, division of state and church. Now that collapsed, and they were merged with Constantine, but talk about whether that's good or bad, it's for another topic. But we're Americans. A secular government, and you could be secularist and religious at the same time. I can't stand when these fundamentalist evangelicals equate secularism with atheism. No. No atheist state was ever secular. They wouldn't allow you to practice your religion. from the non-communists of the French Revolution to the communist governments that were atheistic in their thing. And it's not contradictory to be a communist atheist. Actually, it's quite compatible. It's very compatible. Some may even argue that the only real communists are the atheists, and that to be a Christian communist is a contradiction. I might agree with them. But to go back to the issue of multiculturalism, yeah, it's only here in the West, where we are secularists, that we've stopped saying our culture is the best. In America, not so much, because people will stand up and defend and say the Bill of Rights is better than any other, our Constitution is better than anybody else's. Just go through the first 10, the amendments. Freedom of religion, freedom of speech, all these various freedoms. We believe all men are created equal. And when it talks about God, it means God, the divine architect. Many of the people who worked on the Constitution, many of the founding fathers were deists. But there were also Anglicans, Congregationalists. There were people of all stripes from Western religious backgrounds or a-religious backgrounds working on this. That's what secularism is. It means I'm not going to exclude you or include you because of your religion. And the why atheists are angry, I commented on that on Theo Fag's thing, and I said, well, you can be religious and secularist, and I'm irritated at the evangelicals that they basically have, you know, robbed this term, like intelligent design. Intelligent design used to mean, yeah, evolution, Big Bang, but we see, you know, like the laws of mathematics behind that. There is an intelligence, there is a grid behind that, basically mathematics and the law of thermodynamics. The creationists swooped in the late 90s, early 2000s, and hijacked that to mean creationism. And now we don't use that anymore. Now, when people say intelligent, if you say intelligent design, it's creationism, 6-day creation, 6,000-year-old Earth. Ridiculous. Just these heretical beliefs, these horrible things. Just like I said, that people who hold this up as the Word of God, the final basis that they live by, are idolaters. They are idol worshippers. This is not your God. This is not a manual for life. I have a video done by a gambler on here about the Bible. Secularist government is better than Islamist government. Freedom of religion is better than religion and state. When you mix religion and state, both become corrupted. Now, I know people are going to talk about it. Oh, but they do it. The emperors of Constantinople, who, might I add, always went in to screw up things. Who Constantine lapsed into Arianism. The emperors were the ones that tried to enforce iconoclasm, and it was actually the empresses that backed up. Who were the iconophiles, who actually stood up against it. And it was, iconoclasm was brought in by the influence of Islam, trying to appease that. This is all before the West, before, out of the bloody battles of Europe, of religious war, Protestant on Protestant, Catholic on Protestant, America looked at it and said, we don't want that. And Christopher Hitchens often only talks about the Baptists of Danbury, Connecticut, who were scared of the Congregationalists. And he promised, he said, I will forever build a wall between religion and state. Good. The Americans realized that and said, yeah, we're not going to, because all of the colonies, which became the the first states, 13, they weren't all the same religion. Yes, some of them at the beginning did have these religious charters or whatever, but the government, the U.S. government as a whole, in the beginning, said we're not going to have any of that. That was done in Europe. We're not going to stand for that. To this day, many European countries do have religious statements in their constitutions. We think so highly of the Scandinavian countries, but yet religion and state is merged. The Orthodox Church over there, if they baptize somebody, they have to go to the Lutheran Church to register the baptism. So it's, you know, these are not like, oh, it's so Western values are superior. They're modern. They allow freedom for everyone. And yes, they allow freedom for atheists, even if atheists don't think they get it. Just like when Martin Luther King stood up and said, "No, we have right to inherit all of that in the Bill of Rights." It doesn't say white men; it says all men. And just as atheists should stand up and say that, you want God off the money? Okay, go get it off the money. I would say that God should be looked at as the divine architect or a deist type of view, and we even have Freemasonry symbols on our money, which I don't like, but that's what it is. Should God be taken out of the Constitution, or is it part of our history, which is part Christian, part Masonic, and part deist, which were basically the atheists of the time. Now, a country based on that is better than a country based in Sharia law, or some of the other crazy countries, or North Korea, or any of these hostile forces around the world that want to subjugate and basically screw the minorities over. I mean, the atheists on here from America shout so loud as if they are a persecuted group. Well, you definitely are in a Muslim society. I would be able to live under dimitude, as I say I'm Christian. You wouldn't. You'd be killed. It's time to stand up, and multiculturalism has failed. I think everybody knows that. But it seems that not everybody knows that. Isn't that strange? Just kind of a rambling talk on multiculturalism versus a sane world. Peace to you. May God save Serbia. May Bashir al-Assad remain in power so the jihadists don't get there. Because Bashir al-Assad's government is better than a jihadist government, just as the Shah of Iran, which was relatively secular, is better than Ayatollah Khomeini. We can't say better and worse in these instances. Now, I know this might provoke people to say, oh, atheism is better than Christianity. Okay, that's personal belief. Under a secularist, in secular debate or secularist government, these things don't come into play, because there's a difference between religion and state. No, we should be. Peace to you. May God save Serbia. This has been Yusef. It's not multicultural. Multiculturalism is unicultural. It's only the Western nations that adhere to multiculturalism. You can't be multicultural in Saudi Arabia. And when you say, an idea of multiculturalism is that there's, I mean, I think Douglas Murray made a point about it, saying like if you were a Nazi, or if you were a fascist, or if you were a communist, these are meant to present arguments, basically to cause an argument, to say things like this. Right. I'll take off the hood to show that I'm not gambler. This is Yusef at my own channel. And I think Mark Stein makes a great point that multiculturalism, you believe in everything, or you stand for everything, you stand for nothing. It's ridiculous. These ideas. But multiculturalism states that there's no need to argue. And he says that many of these people who support multiculturalism don't know anything about any other culture, and that the point is that you don't need to. And that